Hello and welcome to Too Fast, Too Forever. There's all kinds of family. We chose this one. This episode 149 seconds from 1966. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
I'm Joe too, and this episode is brought to you by WineMemory.com. Wine Memory is a product designed for anyone who wishes to preserve the memory of a wine. Their philosophy, in fact, reminds us that every special moment in our lives is accompanied by a bottle that will become precious and unforgettable for us. Shout out to WineMemory.com.
Well, shout out to WineMemory.com and welcome to the back half of Throwback Week here on Too Fast, Too Forever. We did Spellbound on Tuesday, and now we're doing 1966's Seconds today. We are jumping ahead 2 decades. We're still in the olden days, in the black and white days, the all or nothing days. What does Kurt Russell say in Death Proof? Whatever. Anyway,
Yes, yeah, that.
Before we get into extracurricular activities, we have 2 updates, one of which hardcore, diehard listeners already know about, one that is new to everyone. Number one, the most exciting thing is
Cool.
we have a shop now.
Yes, I'm very, very excited. And it seems from the response that we've gotten even already that everybody else was pretty excited too.
Our first $10 patron was Ben Milliman way back last June or something.
Ooh.
And our first sale in the store was Ben. He bought one of each of our shirts. So I was so happy to see his support. I mean, everybody's
That's
been great.
cool.
We've sold a lot of random stuff to a lot of people. I bought stuff. You bought stuff. Very exciting. The weird thing about TeePublic where we have, so if you want to go to the store, I realize now that we have so many different links. And also, this isn't a really great link. So if you go to our Twitter page or if you go to our Instagram, I think, I created a link tree, which I don't know if people have seen that, but it's a lot of people where if you have a lot of social profiles, right, you just put everything there. So it's links to all of our different platforms. You can listen to the podcast, all of our social platforms, but also our store, our Patreon, our hub, maybe something else. I got to add our email too. That's not on there yet. But
makes sense, yeah.
Basically, everything there is everything you could possibly want to know about us.
You posted the link to TeePublic, so that's up there too. If you go to any of the socials, I'm sure you've already seen it. You know how to find us. But the link tree thing was actually pretty cool. It's crispy looking. It's like good for your phone and stuff.
It's very nice. Yeah, I think it's designed for mobile. On desktop, it's like kind of sparse, but on phone, it's great. The weird thing about TeePublic is that there's so much that we can't control. The nice thing is that we don't have to, like, if no one buys another shirt forever, and there's more than shirts, there's like stickers and every kind of merch.
Yeah,
like
obviously.
It slaps the logo or the design on everything.
Yeah.
So if you want something else, you can buy something else. But if nobody buys a shirt ever again, it doesn't cost us $1. They just make everything fresh to order, which is cool. But the other weird thing about it, or the downside to it, is that we can't control a lot. So the pricing, we can't control anything. The good news is that 3 times, I think a lot of the time throughout the year, like they email the store owners or whatever, but 3 times this month, everything's on sale, like up to 35% off. So today, as this comes out, it's the tail end of a sale. And then I think next Wednesday to Friday and the Wednesday to Friday after that, a couple times at least in December, there will be everything on sale.
Yeah, so like, wait for a sale, like, is what we're trying to say, because we can't set prices. I was looking when I was doing a tester one, and I was like, oh, I would just turn these prices down to like the lowest possible, right? Like, because it's just like they're making these things, and you can't.
Like, the craziest thing is that we can't even buy things at cost for ourselves.
Exactly, yeah.
There's a site that my boss uses that he has the same kind of thing where they just make everything and ship everything out. Like, we don't touch any of it, right? And same thing he does. But he can place orders through his back end and get things at cost. But I emailed them. I'm like, hey, it seems like this is something you should be able to do. And they're like, hey, no, you can't, but you get the margin back at the end. So like, we're basically getting a couple dollars. We're getting paid a couple dollars of money that I spent. So like, I don't know. It's dumb. PayPal's probably gonna take a cut of that. So like, it's annoying. Who knows? But you know,
it's more so that you can buy the merch, right? Like,
yes,
we're not gonna eat off this. I promise.
Well, we can pay for our own shrimp with this. We can order 1 or 2 plates of shrimp with this. But go to the TeePublic shop. The URL of that might change because I don't know. Don't worry about that. But it's out there if you want to do that. The other thing, the shorter thing, is we have a minor scheduling update, correction, change from what we'll say at the end of this episode. I say that next week was going to be 2 different movies. Next week will instead be Paris, Texas, which you can watch on the Criterion Collection, the Criterion Channel, and HBO Max, I believe.
Oh, cool.
And then on next Friday, we're doing Shutter Island. So the Nico Kevo episode of Fastiverse Crossroads, we're pushing back a week. Nothing else is changing, accommodating their schedules for this week recording, next week releasing, whatever. So just wanted to let everybody know that next week is going to be Paris, Texas, and Shutter Island, not Crossroads and Shutter Island. No new episodes this lap. It's all going to be fine. Whatever. Don't worry about it. Watch Paris, Texas. It's great. We'll talk about it on Tuesday. Extracurricular activities. What have you been up to since we last spoke?
Fucking waiting for this damn Steelers game still.
Oh yeah, well yeah, we're recording on a Tuesday, which is rare because the game is literally on while we normally record on a Wednesday. Which
Which is the
has an NFL
weirdest
game ever
time.
been on a Wednesday?
Okay, so they said this. There was one that was like on like a Christmas day or something, or maybe like one of the first games of the year. I think it's like one of very, very few games, and especially at 3:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I don't think there's ever been a Wednesday afternoon football game.
And then there's like a triple header, I think, on Monday Night Football, but two games at 5 and one at 8. Like this last week has proven that the NFL does not give a shit about player safety or
Nope.
COVID. They're just going to get games done, which is pretty shitty. Like, I've been checked out of the season because the Vikings have been bad, but like, there's been something nagging at me, and I feel like I just, I'm not in on foot. I mean, your team's 10-0, I get it, but like, there's something about, I'm just like, I can't get behind something here, and I feel like this is like putting a pin on the, oh yeah, no, it's like, fuck it, we're all about whatever we can
They're trying
make.
to make money. I
Yeah.
mean, grant and the thing is, like, we've been bitching about it. I was bitching about it with Wells on Twitter. They're just like wildly inconsistent. Like, if they're like, "Hey, we really care about player safety," cool, but they don't because they like only play some games, only let some team. Like, you know what I mean? Like the rules vary depending on the team and the matchup. So either way, I'm waiting for the game, and they totally fucked us in the only recording time that they could have. Because if it was an 8 o'clock game, we even record before that. But no, it was afternoon. Worst timing ever.
What else aside from just like staring at the clock waiting for the Steelers? What else have you been up to?
Nothing. Watching dumb TV. You know what we've been watching a lot of is like on Pluto, the free TV network. We like have been watching a lot of Cops. Like, cause they
Okay.
just have like a Cops channel, and we were big fans of like Live PD and stuff. But I forgot that Cops is like the highlight reel of Live PD, right? Because like Live PD is like, oh, okay, like you're like watching live for that night, so like crazy shit could happen, but it doesn't always happen, and like most of it's kind of routine. Whereas like Cops is like, oh no, they're gonna show you the craziest shit possible.
Well, we talked about Cops earlier this year. I think you were going through a Cops phase earlier this year because I
Probably.
listened to a podcast called Running from Cops. It is amazing how manipulative and manipulated that footage is.
Oh, I'm sure.
They just harassed people like not that I don't want to spoil, but I mean like Cops was canceled for a reason, right? Like I mean it was
Yeah.
on for 20 years or whatever, but like they harass people to get the footage. Like Live PD I think is weird and interesting in a way that like they also harass people and it's also edited and whatever, but like there's something different. Like Cops is literally like 80 hours of footage for like a 5-minute segment. It's like how what? Like it's
Yes.
crazy how much they shoot. I think have I told you, did we talk about it even on here? Did you know there's an X Files episode called X Cops, which is an X Files Cops crossover?
No, no.
It's
That's
amazing.
so cool. So
It's
what is
really
it
good.
like? Is it like they have to like fix the footage that they had or something? Or like,
No, the Mulder and Scully show up on like on the set of Cops. Like they just get called in. Like there's cops responding to an incident, but also the FBI, like the X Files are there. Like Mulder and Scully are there too, also because they got called in too. And it's these two different groups trying to navigate this like weird stuff going on in this town. It's like a
mm,
later season, like season 7 or something, but like it's a great episode. So like it's
that's really
also
cool.
standalone. Like I would say if you want like the weirdest episode of Cops you'll ever see,
Yeah.
X Files is on Hulu. Go check it's season 7 something something episode something.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
Live PD got canceled too, right? Like, are they showing reruns of that at
I
all?
don't
No or
know.
no?
I don't think so. I haven't noticed it.
It's gone.
It's gone from my lexicon at least anyway, so.
Anything else that you guys have been up to?
No, that's it. Hanging out.
Did you start the Queen's Gambit or no?
No, we didn't. Rachel, I introduced Rachel's parents to Supermarket Sweep instead because we had been day drinking. We played some Trivial Pursuit. The Queen's Gambit was going to be a little heavy for like diluted brains. So we watched some of the Leslie Jones Supermarket Sweep, which they really seemed to enjoy.
Well, I watched all of the Queen's Gambit this weekend, and it is really, really good. I don't want to say it's like predictable, but it's the kind of show where like you kind of know what's going to happen.
Yeah, yeah.
And that I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just like they're not breaking new ground here in terms of storytelling, but I think it's a really well done show. It's very watchable. Anya Taylor-Joy is great in it. A lot of people in it are really really good. So I do recommend it. It's only 7 hours, 7 episodes. I also finished two Quibi series. I watched Dummy, which I was talking about last time, which is good,
Yeah.
and I watched The Stranger, which is not good. So don't watch The Stranger. If
Is
Quibi
the
lives on
stranger
elsewhere.
is the stranger like a video of a guy sitting on his left hand and then rubbing one out?
Oh boy, no. but that
Come on,
might
that's a good
be.
joke. Come on, you
Mm,
listened.
no, but I knew where it was going as soon as you said sitting. Like it's just waiting for the dominoes to fall. No, this is a video or this is a movie length series, 13 episodes of like 6 to 9 minute, whatever. Of Dane DeHaan, Micah Monroe, who I know from It
Yeah.
Follows and The Guest, and she was in At Any Price with Zeph.
Yep.
They're in this, and it's not great, but not everything can be a winner. No, oh, I watched that movie about dying mall. Remember, we talk about dying malls in here a lot, and I told you there's a documentary that came out this year called
Oh.
Jasper Mall about a dying mall in Alabama. It's on
Okay.
Prime. I watched it. It's just a bummer, man. Like I don't know what I expected, but it feels like manipulative, kind of like look at these poor, sad Alabama people
That
in their
have
dying
nothing.
mall. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
like that's and this is all pre-COVID too. Like it's like that mall is definitely dead now. Like
Oh yeah.
it's just a bummer to watch. And like like a documentary usually has like an angle or like a scope or like
Yeah.
a point of view. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what it was here. It's like kind of humanizing, but like I already feel bad for these people. Like it's like I'm aware.
Yeah, that they're in a kind of isolated in a way type of place, and your mall was probably your great entertainment source for varying reasons, and you lose that.
Anyway, we have a Patreon page in the show, too fast, too forever.com. Shout out to Cassie Wilson, Jake Freer, Ben Milliman, Nick Burris, Alex Ellenin, Justin Kleinman, Brian Rodriguez of High School Slumber Party, Haley Gerbies, Wes Hampton, Christian Larson, Jerry Robinson, Dan the Duke Hayden, Renato DiDonato, and Jessica Collins, aka Montez.
Tez.
Thank you all so much for supporting us at the $5 level or above. Big, exciting ish changes coming to the Patreon page in the new year, so stay tuned for that. We will detail those, I think, on the Tune Up Relap Recap in a couple weeks,
Mm.
but all good things coming over there. We also have an email address here on the show, family@cageclub.me. And Joe, we have 6 emails today.
Jesus.
Well, we haven't had it in a couple days, and then the floodgates opened.
Yeah, it happens sometimes like that.
So first up from Jerry Robinson, subject line Spider-Man 3.
What up, Jerry? How are you doing, buddy?
Hey guys, hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Sorry. Oh, so okay. Backstory to this. So Jerry sent a video to us on Instagram of him in his car. Passing him on his left was a Ferrari, and I just said,
Oh.
"Smoke him." And he just said, "I'm in a Prius. Also, it's a work car. They will call me if I go above 70." I'm like, "Okay, maybe don't. I want to. I can't for many reasons. Here are the reasons."
Yeah.
So he says, "Sorry, I couldn't smoke that Ferrari I sent you on Instagram. Again, I was in a Prius, but in our minds." We smoked him like Brian passing Ja
Oh
Rule.
yeah.
Monica! Spider-Man 3, I loved it, but it could have been a lot better. Keep the symbiote scenes and Eddie Brock, but not attach it onto him. Save it for the mid-credits scene, MCU style. Setting up 4 with Peter versus Eddie in 2 rounds, and 5 with Carnage or the Return of Green Goblin with Spidey and Venom teaming up. Ooh, I like that.
That plays well. I like
Yep.
that.
Let 3 be Spider and New Goblin versus Sandman. Still keep the ending where Harry dies. My favorite actor in the Spider series was Willem Dafoe, by the way. I agree with you, Joey. I want that big ass oil painting of Willem Dafoe, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree with Nate with a lot of things, especially with Toby a perfect Peter, Andrew a better Spider-Man, and the movie struggles and Tom being a good both in between. When it
Yes.
comes to Mary Jane, Kirsten Dunst, Gwen, and MJ, Zendaya, I'm team MJ because of weed.
Okay.
On a serious note, one of Ilyana's cousins ending up testing positive for COVID. Oof.
No.
So I'm getting tested tomorrow, while Ilyana and her brother Adrian are getting tested on Wednesday. So good luck to both of you, all of
Yeah,
you.
all of you. Seriously.
I don't think
Stay.
he's emailed again, so give us an update, Jerry, please. Our moms are freaking out while we're actually remaining calm and not letting it get to us. That's all I got for now. Back to quarantine. Be fast and never last.
Hope you're okay, buddy. Seriously, man.
This wave, I don't even want to call it a wave because it's the same continuation, but this is already way worse. Like, I think it's hitting closer to home. Like, I know so many more people who
Yeah.
have got it or are sick in another way or have family members with it. Like,
Yep.
living near New York, I knew a lot of friends of friends and stuff had it the first time, but this, it's worse. It's worse. So,
It's getting colder. It's gonna spread worse. People are getting a little complacent, right? I mean, not saying that that's what happened here, but it is happening. My work is very, very scared. Good luck to everyone, and hopefully you're still all staying safe. So
yeah. Yeah. Next email from Hector. Till the sweat come down my balls.
to all, yeah,
These
from the
females
windows.
crawl. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
The censored version. Hey guys, man, I love the Spider-Man 3 episode mostly because of Nate. He's so funny, especially with his butler impersonations. I might be in the minority here, but y'all should make a whole lap with him. Hell, if I had to
Oh.
contribute money every month, I would donate $100 just to make it happen. Then again, we have nothing but time. Gotta go. Stay fast. Stay furious.
Well, we kind of are doing a lap with Nate, but you just gotta piece it together there, bud. Because there's someone posts wrestling,
Yep.
and then he comes and does episodes with us. we're gonna get there. It's not gonna be like one straight through lap just because of like how it plays out. And like, obviously we don't want to steal his steez with like the Rock ones if he invites us there. We'll eventually get through all the movies with Nate. And he's a great guest, so I love having him, and I hope that we get him back as often as possible. So
Yeah, we've done 2 with him on here. I mean, movie number 2. We did 5 and 6 on his show. We're doing 7 in January in his show. We'll
yeah.
do 8 and Hobbs, I'm assuming, next year sometime for his show. Maybe not next year because, like, he's got a lot of movies in between. So
Yeah, he does.
maybe 8 toward the end of next year. I know because he only does 1 a month, and then he obviously came back for Spider-Man 3. So I would love. I forwarded it to Nate. He's like, glad I had a great time. Glad people are enjoying it. Always fun to talk with you guys or something like that. So
Cool. Yeah,
shout
Nate's
out
a good
Nate.
dude.
Thank you. You're always welcome here, of course. We got a lot of people that we've had a great rotating cast of characters
I think so
on the
too.
show. So next email also from Hector. This proves how dangerous racing actually is. Hey guys, I just watched the Formula One Bahrain Grand Prix and holy shit, what the hell did I just watch? Please look up Romain Grosjean crash and watch the first video. So hold on, let me find this.
Yeah, my buddy was just telling me about this on Saturday morning. I think this had to be Saturday, right?
This was posted on the 29th, which was yes, maybe Sunday. It just like a car just explodes. Like he runs into a wall and just explodes.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And he walked away.
Yeah, dude, that's what I was saying. These new like security feature I mean like sorry, safety features and stuff like bless him, man. It just disintegrates. But that's how they're designed now, right? Like they're made to just like absorb all of the impact. God bless him. Glad that he walked away. That's awesome. But yeah, racing is crazy. It's definitely dangerous. Like you're in something trying to go as fast as possible, as light as possible.
All right. Well, thank you, Hector, for emailing in. Next email from Montez, because I was talking to her about something else. I was like, where are you in Too Fast? We haven't had nothing. She's like, oh, I've been working on an email. I'll send it to you. So here we go.
Okay.
Catching up thoughts. Started this email weeks ago and never got around to sending it. She says the yesterday hypothesis makes so much sense and definitely tracks. I've seen that movie, I don't know how many times, and now thinking back, it works on so many levels. That was my friend saying about, remember that whole thing about yesterday, the Beatles movie? Talked about
Yes.
with Justin. I can't wait to watch Tammy and the T Rex, or I will add Tanny and the Teenage T Rex,
Yes.
for my FaceTime movie Friday. Ooh.
And it's a fun one to watch. There's there's a lot of weird shit that happens in that movie.
She says UK Skins was amazing, also where I fell in love with Kaya Scolodario, whom you
Oh,
love.
same Effie forever. She's like my permanent girlfriend, even though she's married now and has a kid, I think, and one of my favorite actress girlfriends for sure.
She says, Montez says, your name was wonderful and I cried. No surprise, I cried everything. I still haven't seen Weathering with You. Yeah, they're both good. Weathering with You, I think, is now on Blu-ray since we spoke about it, probably, or maybe we spoke about Your Name. I don't know. I don't know where this is coming from. This is again like Montez like ranking or writing down movie titles and Fire Ass House, but not ranking them. It's like I don't have context. I don't remember. We did
Yeah,
150 of these.
exactly.
Thank you, Wes, for the Charles Manson Brian Wilson connection. I was yelling that to my phone and glad someone else said it before I did. Okay.
Okay.
Holy crap, this stay at home has been so long, I completely forgot I also watched Tiger King.
Yeah, Tiger King was like right when the fucking pandemic started. It feels also like it was 45 years ago. So yeah.
But don't worry, there's still the Nicolas Cage movie coming out where he plays, or TV series or whatever, where he plays Joe Exotic. So
I don't know. That feels like that's something that should get canceled, right?
you would think.
Right? Yeah.
Lego Masters was so fun, and much like Rachel, I never play with Legos unless I got to go to a friend's house that had a little brother, and that's all I wanted to do. That's probably why I don't have any friends, because I'm that weird kid that went over just to play with your brother's toys. Okay.
I like it.
Respect for admitting it, sure.
That's yeah.
She says, agree the Jumanji sequel wasn't that great.
Like Jumanji 2, the
I think
after the
the
reboot.
new one, the next level, like the third one.
Yeah, I mean they're enjoyable.
And the one you're going to enjoy the most, your reactions to F9 are making me want to watch the rest of the movies. It only took 70 plus episodes. But I have so many more episodes to go, but I've made it to April 2020, Heart Montez.
Oh, so she's like in pandemic times. Yeah, that's right. Okay, because she said
Yeah,
Tiger
she
King.
passed Tiger King, yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Glad that you're finally going to watch the movie. She got a new TV, and she said that she was calibrating it with Hobbs and Shaw because it was on TV, and her husband was groaning. I was like, well, it's like number one of them is always on TV. So no matter when you buy a TV and you want to calibrate it, one of these movies is always on TV. But number two, good choice.
I used like some kind of fun time YouTube video to calibrate my TV, and it worked out pretty well. So I didn't even have to buy like any goofy glasses. Like you can buy a calorimeter and all kinds of other fun toys that are expensive for no reason. But like you can also just use a there was like a YouTube video that you like used, and then there's like two pictures, and it was like use these two pictures, and I did that, and I was like, okay, we're good.
Next email from Alex Ellen in subject line. So I stumbled upon a theory I didn't even think about. Dot dot dot.
Kick it to us. I want to hear it.
Dot dot dot. And it was dumb as hell.
Oh,
Alex, you killed Joe. You killed Joe. He was vaping, I'm guessing, and just he coughed up all the smoke.
yeah,
An
that's
F and F
exactly what
meme
happened.
came up in one of the car groups I'm in on Facebook, and apparently there's a whole group of people who think the mechanic Dom almost drops the engine block on in 4 is the same character as Leon. Seriously. That's what they think happened to Leon. FYI, the mechanic's name is apparently Virgil. Which, if you'll remember, that guy is basically like, say hi to your sister for me, but like in a
Yeah.
derogatory, like, or, whatever.
Also, he
Like, that's
looks
not how Leon.
vastly different.
Dumb.
Weird. Okay, cool. Like, how did these people? Do you have to like go in there and be like, it's not the same guy? Like, this isn't funny because it's not the same guy.
I think it's just like, boy, like just,
Yeah.
SMDH. Last email from Wells Lamont, subject line F8.
What
The
up, Wells?
parkour in the jail scene is epic. Hobbs sliding off the second tier and bouncing off the fence and landing on his feet was pretty cool. The give and take between Hobbs and Shaw is so good in this movie. It's why I love Hobbs and Shaw the movie. Can't wait for Hobbs and Shaw 2. I know I
Yes,
dropped it in my newest order, but it's hard and I was trying something new. It's like choosing your favorite child.
exactly.
Why didn't Dom tell Letty to just back off and let him do his job? I know he was instructed to tell nobody, but who cares? I guess we needed a movie, so it had to happen this way.
Yeah, in Fate, yeah, because Dom could have easily been like, Letty, like winked at her and been like, sorry, or something,
Quote, we've been in here 4 hours. My ribs are showing. I don't know about y'all, but I'm out of here. This line was upsetting. It seemed as if they were setting us up for, I don't know about y'all, but I'm hungry. Which would have been the third time I'm hungry line from Roman in the series in 3 different movies. It's the little things, you feel me?
Yeah, they fumble the bag all the time on us.
They don't watch the earlier movies, I don't think. They write them and then they're just out of the brain.
They need us to like spice up the scripts a little bit. We should get like early copies of the scripts and like add in more like fast connections for them.
I wouldn't say no.
I wouldn't say no either.
When they all guard Dom with their cars from the fire, cinematic perfection.
Yes, it is.
That's all I have for 8. I was trying to watch every second because it had been so long. I was enjoying it so much. I wanted to keep the good feeling going.
Nice. Yeah, yeah. But when we revisited 8 recently, I told you I found a whole new scene that I forgot existed.
Someone should make a movie where they take away the movie part and make everything as realistic as possible. Take away the parts that have to be there for the movie to exist. Here's an example, maybe not the best example. There's definitely better examples I could give. Die Hard. John McClane never gets to Nakatomi Tower. Han's plans go smoothly. They get away with the German barabons. 20 minutes in, we're out, cut the credits. There's the exit. Get out of the theater. See you next time.
What? Anticlimax movies?
Not even anticlimax, because that would be something. It's just like a John McClane flies to LA, waits for Bonnie Bedelia at his, Holly at her house. She's like, hey, crazy thing happened at work today. Wow, okay. End of movie.
This is budget boys level YouTube channel thinking. And this needs to be done. Cause you could just like ruin a bunch of movies like this. Like, oh, like You've Got Mail. It's like the first email gets rejected. They just don't become pen pals and like life goes on or whatever the fuck happens. You could do this for a lot of these. I think people would really enjoy them. Like 2 3 minute movies of just like ruining a movie. It'd
Yeah.
be great.
And ruining the new way.
In a new way, yeah, in a new way. Like you don't make it worse, you just change the story so that nothing happens.
Just make it boring as hell.
Yeah, it sounds great actually.
Says trilogies always start out with the main characters hating each other, and it really broke my heart in Harold and Kumar the Christmas special. 3D, by the way.
I never saw that.
Neither did I. I saw the first one, and I was like, I'm good.
Yeah, that's it. I'm really bad with stoner comedies. We've talked about this before. That like I don't
Yep.
do well with stoner comedy movies. So
Hit or miss for me.
yeah,
Sometimes I love them, sometimes I don't. Okay, bros, peace out. Until next time. P.S. So I haven't been in Rasputin since the pandemic, but they opened back up 3 or 4 months ago.
oh,
They obviously require a mask, but they take your temp with a forehead thermometer before they allow you such great deals and selection. Seems safe enough, but I'm still a little wary of doing something that really isn't that important. I'm sure I'll eventually get there, and I imagine I'll be stockpiling a gang of DVDs, deals all day.
either it's gonna be empty because like a lot of people were buying stuff to like have media during the pandemic, or they're gonna come out of the pandemic and they're gonna be like, I watched Frozen 7,000 times in the past 9 months. Give it to Rasputin and trade it. You know, I
Yeah.
feel like it's gonna be one or the other.
Every pizza at the beginning of Home Alone had olives on it, in spite of it being a house full of kids.
What the fuck? Yeah, that's a good point. Jesus.
Maybe kids love olives. I mean, it's Chicago. Who knows?
No, no kids love olives.
Look what you did, you little jerk. Well, thank you all for writing in emails.
That was a great email bag.
Doesn't even have to be about the movies, as you just heard. It can be about whatever you want. Family at cageclub.me. Joe, on the streets, news about the Fast and Furious. You found something.
I got something from Jason.
So, as a quick backstory, before I'm not even, I'm gonna let you say what it is, but you sent me a message on Facebook that my first reaction was, I guess Facebook Messenger fucked up, and these messages are from months ago because, like, what you sent me made no sense to my brain. What you just said made no sense to me. I was like, wait, what? Like, because what you said, the sentence you said was very straightforward.
We're recording tonight. You might want to watch the Spy Racers trailer. There's a lot to talk about.
Wait, what? Spy Racers? And he said, yeah, season 3, and I was like,
What?
Spy Racers Sahara coming the day after Christmas.
Yeah, yeah. So we get a new season of Spy Racers in a couple weeks.
So I think what's going to happen, and again, best laid plans of mice and men. I was talking about how like fated it was that the next lap was going to end like right at F9. Who knows? But after our current lap ends on 1-1, I think we'll do 2 episodes back to back that week. I think you and me on Tuesday. We'll bring in Nico and Kevin, assuming they want to do it on Friday, and
Yep.
just a full week of Spy Racers because what the fuck? Like, come on, what?
Did you watch the trailer?
I did. So Echo in charge, love that.
Yes, we called that right. We were like, Echo was. I mean, not that it was that hard to cast, but Echo was becoming Mrs. Nowhere.
Because Ms. Nowhere and what's his name?
Gary.
Gary are lost in the Sahara somewhere. They go down. Rafaela is back. She's somewhere in
Yes.
the desert. There's all these different people that are down
And
the
the
desert.
and the first guy, the guy that owned the casinos in the first one, he's
I don't
back.
know what's going on. Like this, it almost feels like a end to a trilogy. Like
It does kind of feel like the end game, right? Like they like built because there's like old bosses and a new boss.
at one point they drive a car into a sandstorm. Again, we
Da-da-da-da.
just talked about. I know. That's what I was saying. Like we just talked about Sandman in Spider-Man 3. If
Yes.
they don't play the Rude here, I don't know that we're ever going to get in one of these movies.
I hope to God we do. I don't think they have the money for like the licensing in Spy Racers. I think that I saw Frosty has a new friend.
Speaking of Frosty, kind of, Froyo is back. They reference Froyo, so maybe Froyo will play a bigger part in this than they did in season 2.
Yeah, and we need what's the drink called again?
Yoka, 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 Yoka,
Yoka.
Yoka.
Yoka. Yeah, we need Yoka to come back. Okay, so we got Froyo, definitely is a big reference. And we didn't see the blonde girl. What's her name?
No,
In the
we did not.
trailer.
She's not in it because like she was kind of like it's like they were writing her off, but
Yeah.
I don't know why you would need to. Layla, they don't have Layla in
Layla.
there. We got Ms. Nowhere briefly, Shashi and Tony, and Tony's like the Toretto gang is back, but like they cut away. It's like I very clearly is going to be like, what are you talking about? Like Echo's in charge. Like it's like you're nothing, Tony. Like stop. We know.
Yes.
That's
Which
just
is
like a
really
name
cool.
drop of the trailer.
We knew that we wanted Echo in charge and
Yeah.
that she was positioning, so that's very, very cool.
But yeah, so coming up December 26th, Spy Racer Season 3, Spy Racer Sahara. So I guess 2 more episodes is left just when you thought we were out.
Bring
Pull it
us
back
right
in.
back
It means we're hitting at 50 episodes this lap. We are going to end at 48 and we're going to get up to 50. So,
Jesus. Dude,
yeah.
I want to know, we talked about this before, but like I want to know when the fuck they're making these Spy Racers episodes cuz they're like they have to just be in constant like this is the Spider-Man Sony thing going on that like something's always in production.
But I don't even think it's that. Like, I had a theory, and then Nico and Kevo had a different theory, and it turns out that we're both wrong because they didn't think we were going to get any more. We weren't sure if we were going to get any more. I didn't think it was going to happen this soon, but like, I guess they're just churning things out. I don't, and this feels like a wildly different, from the trailer at least, a wildly different setting. So it's not like they had like leftover from a previous season. It's like, oh, this is all
It's
brand new.
called Sahara.
So,
Yeah, so they're like in the desert.
is this our first time in Africa in the franchise?
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope they drift around a sphinx or something.
They have dune buggies in this, which this leads me to believe that F9 was coming out and that we got the spoiler peek that they're going to Morocco. They were like, "Oh, they're going to do desert stuffs in 9, so like let's put desert stuffs in this."
Yeah.
Is what I'm thinking.
Any other news about the Fast? I mean, that again came out of nowhere. That's just how it's going to happen now, I guess. But anything else of note
No.
about the news in the world of the Fast and Furious?
No, nothing else. Thank you, Jason, for sending that in to us because we would have totally missed it as of today.
Oh, I will say there was one other minor thing that isn't about us, but could kind of sort of maybe impact us one day. Warner Brothers is considering sending several films to HBO Max, including Judas and the Black Messiah, a biographical drama starring Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield. So Daniel
Mm.
Kaluuya from the star of Get Out, but also was in Widows This Lap, and Lakeith
Oh, that's
Stanfield
right.
from Atlanta. Denzel Washington's crime thriller The Little Things, and the Tom and Jerry movie.
Okay.
Warner, HBO Max, it's all in the realm of like sending things to VOD that were meant to be in theaters, and different studio than Universal, of course, different platform on
Yeah.
HBO Max as opposed to Peacock or whatever.
Yeah.
But movie theaters are looking at what we're seeing, spikes and vaccines coming, but who knows how the vaccines are going to work, and people are not going to want to rush back to the movie theater, right? So
Mhm.
they're going to unload a lot of, I think, probably smaller and middle and whatever, and obviously Wonder Woman 84. But the more this normalizes, the more likely it'll be that we get F9 on VOD quickly ish.
I know. I'll be excited.
All right, Joe, the final thing to do before we take a break and talk about seconds is to talk about the deleted scene in the first movie, the first Fast and Furious. Brian and Jesse outside Toretto's garage.
Hey Jess, what are you doing up so early?
Morning. How you doing? Dude, I've been up all night figuring this shit out. Just disking the trailer. I'll be right back. You hang tight. I'm gonna take a piss.
So in the scene, Brian arrives at DT Precision Auto Shop in the morning. Jesse, working on a car, tells Brian he's figured everything out. Then Jesse leaves to, quote, take a piss. Super
Yeah.
cool. So do you think, my question that I did not think about when we watched the first time is, do you think that Jesse is in one of those like OCD-esque fugue states where he kind of forgets that he has to drink water or go to the bathroom until somebody like distracts him? Like, I'm sure that everybody to a certain extent on something is just like, they're so locked into whatever. They're like, oh, right. Like I need to, like, I'm a human being. I need to take care of like bodily functions. Like,
I
do you
think
think that's
so.
what happened or just a coincidence?
No, I think that they're trying to exhibit his ADHD and saying that he gets like so hyper focused on cars and engines that you're right. Like when Brian snapped him out of it, he was like, "Oh God, I need to drink water and pee."
Speaking of drinking things, you made a note. I think you made a good clarification, but they're both holding something. So Brian shows up with a little brown paper bag. I'm wondering, tuna sandwich, maybe?
Well, no, he usually eats the tuna sandwiches with Mia. Like getting it to go would like kind of ruin his, trek there because he
Well,
like
I think that we've only seen him eating them with Mia before he was with Mia. But now that he's with Mia and with the crew, he doesn't need to eat it there.
maybe even better. She like now packs him
Yep.
homemade tuna
Yeah.
sandwiches, and he doesn't even need to buy them anymore, which is like shitty for Dom because that's like his only customer, right? So
So he's got a brown bag with something, like he's bringing lunch to the shop. Because Jesse's in the same shirt, the Fall National shirt, that was in minute 39,
yes,
which is not something I know off the top of my head as much as it sounds like I do. I looked it up. The same shirt he's wearing when Brian drops off the car that they're going to fix up, Dom's 10-second car, right?
and when he
So,
goes like, "Here's how we could do it," right? Isn't that
yeah,
the he shows him the zip drive, the floppy disk of like we can make it orange and green and whatever, right?
yep. It's within 24 hours of that. So maybe that's either because clearly if Jesse stayed up all night working this car, he didn't change his shirt. So it's either the day after that happened or the morning of that happening. But it feels like Brian probably dropped the car off. Then Jesse's been working on it all night, and this is probably the morning after, I would imagine.
Okay, okay,
Right?
yeah, yeah, that
Probably.
sounds about right. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Jesse's holding what I thought might be a like an energy drink or something, but you think it's something that's different. You think something maybe a different.
I saw that when you said it. I looked at the car, like it's sitting on the car, and when he picks it up, you see that it has like a cup holder shape at the bottom. So I think it's more of like a chrome kind of like thermos coffee cup, which I mean could have energy drink in it, but I'm guessing he's just guzzling coffee.
True, true,
Do
true,
you
true.
do you think that's more? Or does it look like that to you when you like checked it again or like thought about it?
Again, if we had any kind of video resolution on these scenes,
They're
we might be able
so
to know
blurry.
better.
They're
But
so blurry.
the reason the scene was cut and the reason that we don't have like a final, 1080p or 4K mastered version of this, that Rob Cohen said it wasn't needed. It's so much better to start with the design of the Supra and the computer and his explanation of the options. We don't need this bit of stall. But I'm also wondering if, like, the side of the building that we see DT Precision Auto, I mean, it's just a building. Like, not that they're going to do more work, but it just seems so, like, under designed. It's just like a big old plain wall on the side. It just feels
It's a
like,
garage, yeah.
but I feel like there could be something. Like, it's just it's a boring shot to look at. And
We see it in the other thing too, like that he uses that intro DT Precision Auto cut down shot again.
so maybe he repurposed it. Yeah, okay.
He left this whole scene in. You would see it twice within like 2 minutes, right? And you'd be like, okay, cool, like we're here again, got it.
What else did you notice in the scene? Because again, this is the third scene in a row where there's no music and we have the dialogue that you just heard. But what did you notice in this in terms of cars or other stuff?
There was a couple cars, a white truck that might be a GMC truck, but again, I can't get any resolution. It looks like that. That's what I would guess that it was, like a late 80s, early 90s GMC, but it's kind of small and weird shape. There's a full like Winnebago camper across the street behind Brian at the
Okay.
whatever store is across the street as Brian walks in. Oh, and on the side of that building, I tried so many times. I really think it says cellos, CHELOS apostrophe something, but
Weird. Okay.
I couldn't read it because it's blurry. But like I had to watch it moving like 15 times. Like, like normally I stop stuff, right? Because it's like clear and you just have
Yep.
to get the stopping. No, I had to watch this moving 15 times. But one of the most interesting things for me is that you see the silver campers in Dom's lot.
Yes. And these are these the ones that you think they park at Race Wars?
I absolutely think so. Do the math. Jesse says, "Oh, I have to go take a piss." And when he says that, he gets up and walks towards the camper. Do you think that Jesse is living on the lot in one of the campers?
That would be sad, but maybe.
Why is it sad?
I think to live on site where you work is like a very close, because he doesn't have a very expansive world.
I think that that's an enjoyable place for him to live because he really enjoys working on cars, right? Because he has the ADHD, engines make him calm. It's not like he's living and he doesn't feel like he's like mooching off the Torettos by living in their house. So, okay, he lives at the garage and also he has his own space.
True.
So I think in the grand scheme of things, it's like Jesse is homeless or he lives in the camper on the Toretto's lot. It's like camper on the Toretto's lot's not bad. That's fine.
So maybe he was living with his dad and his dad went to prison and he's just like, Dom, I need a place to crash. And
Which would make sense, and then in that sense, it's actually pretty cool, right? Like,
yeah,
I can't take care of, like, I can't pay rent, I don't have any money, and Dom's like, here, live here, I'll pay you under the table to do car work, and that's like, oh, Andy's your friend, right? And he's looking after him, so he knows where he's at and stuff, which is
true.
cool too.
There's that apparently people thinking it was Hemingway, but it's not Hemingway, but there's that like story, which is the entirety of a story. It's for sale baby shoes never worn, which is like the saddest, like the shortest, saddest story, which is like bought shoes for a baby, the baby died before he could wear the shoes, whatever. Like it's just famous. But I'm just thinking about like at the end of this movie, after Jesse gets gunned down, Dom putting like a for rent on the outside of the camper, just like.
No, because they still use the camper for Race Wars. That's what I'm saying. So like, it's still he's not like selling it.
I'm just saying, he's got like, it's like an apartment over the garage. Just like you can stay out here. We have the mad scientist. He's no longer with us.
R.I.P. Squirrel. R.I.P. Squirrel.
We're never going to be better than this. Anything else you want to talk about in this minute?
As much as that one deserved to be cut, that had some interesting tidbits in it.
I think it's just because we're so in it, right? Where we're just like...
We found interesting tidbits in it, yes.
Yeah. The next scene is the trading driving stories, which I think is probably a little bit longer than a minute. This was only 30 seconds, but it's the shirtless one. 2 after that... There's another sort of shortish one. Then there's one after that is the Brian and Mia at the beach, which is like 2.5 minutes. So we'll have a lot to talk about with that one. But good stuff coming up in the Fast and the Furious deleted scenes. We continue to go through the movie, kind of, even though it's not really the movie, but it's,
I really wish they were remastered somehow. I really fucking wish they were remastered.
Well, the good news is that, the second movie and the third movie and Hobbs and Shaw and I think every movie from here on out has mastered versions, right? So
yeah, that's true. They might not have like music or something, but they're mastered. That's
we
true.
can at least see what the fuck is going on.
Exactly. Yeah, we don't have to squint and watch on our CRT about it.
All right, Joe. Let's take a break and let us come back to talk about 1966's film from John Frankenheimer, Seconds.
This is episode number 149, Seconds. This episode is brought to you by winememory.com. The main feature of Wine Memory for collecting wines is the simplicity of its use. There's just 6 simple steps to keep the labels of your favorite wines. Detach, attach, preserve. winememory.com.
Stomp those grapes.
Exactly.
Well, welcome back to the show. We are now talking about our second John Frankenheimer movie. I think when we announced this or something, at some point in the past, I said that this was the second John Frankenheimer movie because this director would go on to do Ronin, which we covered last lap with the
That's
Robert De
insane
Niro,
to me.
Natasha McElhone.
To have a career that long, right?
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes. So this was his prime era. I think Ronin might have been his last movie or one of his last movies. I can't imagine he's still alive. This is part of his unofficial Paranoia trilogy. So when Nicolas Cage, when we did Cage Club, there are official trilogies and there's unofficial there's his his action trilogy, which is The Rock and Face Off and Con Air. But there's also
Okay.
the Sunshine trilogy. The Cage did 3 movies early in his career that are all kind of rom-coms. Or there's the Uncle Francis trilogy because he was in 3 movies that his uncle Francis Ford Coppola directed. So there's these
Okay.
unofficial clumpings of movies that either an actor has been in or a director has done or whatever. But this is John Frankenheimer's Paranoia trilogy because this came out in '66. But before this, The Manchurian Candidate, which was remade, I think, with Denzel,
Yeah.
20 years ago-ish, came out in 1962. And a movie called 7 Days in May came out in 1964. So this was around that time where, the walls are closing in on you and, people are just, I guess, freaking out in general.
Okay.
I had never seen this movie. I'd never heard of this movie. Before we get into trivia or anything, what did you think of the movie Seconds?
It was pretty good. It was another one of these things where I can see that a lot of modern movies or movies that I have seen took a lot of elements of this movie.
So there was a big, long write-up on Letterboxd by David Ehrlich, whom I love, who we talked about on here a lot, that he wrote about how specifically no line in Fight Club was essentially not directly influenced by John Frankenheimer's work. Just the paranoia and
I didn't
fear
even make
of
that connection.
anger and loathing of material goods, what is a life and what is meaning of life and all that stuff.
I didn't make that parallel at all. I was thinking just purely in the body swap, face off. Now we have a lot of technological ones of rebirth through technology type situations. So I was thinking a lot of those, but the cynicism of materialism is very Fight Club. Yeah, that's right.
Because it's all there to comment on a thing, right? Because the
Yes, yeah.
gist of this eventually is that no matter where you go, you're still the same person, and you can never really escape who you are or what how life is, right? You can have a new face and a new body. So this is about this guy who is in a loveless marriage and just seems like he has a daughter he doesn't really see much, or a son or something. He has a kid that he doesn't see much.
Yeah, daughter.
And he just
Yeah.
wants out of his life, and he gets handed a piece of paper and he shows up to this meat locker, this warehouse, gets transferred to this other place, and it's this company called The Company, and they just take a person and they completely do face-off technology, and they change the way that you look, and you become a different person.
They help set you up in a new life too. It's
Right.
you fully restart. They disappear, they kill your old body, you're in the papers, you're dead, there was an accident, and then you can go somewhere else and you can begin a life anew, however you want to. If you were a banker and you didn't want to be a banker, you can pick a new career, everything, you can just start over.
And so this guy starts this new life, and things seem to be going pretty good for a while, and then he realizes that he's only in a community filled with people who are also seconds, who are people who have been replaced, and they're just all living this supposedly better life. And he's like, I don't want any of this. I want out. And he goes back to the company. He's like, I need a new start because this isn't working for me. They're like, cool, we got it. Just sit down, wait your turn. And then he meets up with his friend Charlie, who is the guy who let him in on this. His old tennis partner or whatever did this before the movie began, but he thinks Charlie is dead. So this guy calls me. He's like, hey, I'm Charlie. Let me prove it to you. Here's our memory that only we would have. Look at this trophy. Look underneath. You engrave this. I'm me. So at the end of the movie, he's waiting to be reassigned or whatever you want to call it. And Charlie's there, and Charlie gets chosen to get re-seconded or whatever, and he walks off, and then they escort him out, or he goes to sleep, I think, that night, and he gets woken up by the doctor who's like, I get where you're coming from, and everything's going to be okay. And they take him off, whether it's Charlie or someone else. He's going to be killed, and that his body, the Rock Hudson body, the actor Rock Hudson, is going to be the new vessel for Charlie or someone else. And so it's a very be careful what you wish for. Just be happy with what you have.
Yeah. As I was watching this, I was thinking, and like regardless of the end, if you had the option that you and I were rich enough to do this, would you do this?
The guy, the original actor is John Randolph.
Okay.
When the movie was first written, and this is a roundabout way to get to your answer, but when the movie was originally written, it was supposed to be one actor in like old man makeup and then just like young body or whatever. Because he's like a dude who's probably like 65 or 70,
Yeah.
and then a dude who's probably like 40, right? So he
Yep.
gets like 25 or 30 years younger. And so originally it was written so that it's one actor in both parts, and then Rock Hudson. So taking an even further step back, so John Randolph, the guy who plays the old guy, I think played Tom Hanks's dad in You've Got Mail, or maybe his grandpa. Like he's a
Oh.
ancestor of Tom Hanks in You've Got Mail. He also plays Chevy Chase's dad in Christmas Vacation. So like he's
Okay.
Clark Sr. or whatever. I don't really know him from a ton of other things. I think he's just kind of like a serviceable kind of working actor kind of guy, whatever, but he's
Yeah.
also been in probably 100 things. So Rock Hudson, do you know him or do you know the name or do you know anything like the significance of Rock Hudson?
The name sounds familiar, but I have I have like no actual facts to tie to it.
So he did a lot of rom-coms in the 50s with Doris Day. He was known as this like handsome, hunky leading man because he's just like this, good-looking dude. In real life, he's noteworthy, or like, I don't know if that's the right word given what I'm about to say, but he was not out because that was a different time, but he was a gay actor,
Mm.
and he was one of the first major Hollywood actors to die from AIDS. So
Oh.
he's again, noteworthy is the wrong word for that, but like a lot
Yes.
of people know that he was this kind of closeted but sort of out, like people knew gay actor who was also like this handsome hunky leading man in a lot of rom-coms with Doris Day and whatever. And so
Okay.
this movie came, I don't know if it was the end of his career or toward like whatever, but kind of a very conscious, self-reflective, like this is a different thing. Like, what we talked about with Zac Efron a lot. Like, he comes up in all these like hunky, like he's just the beefcake, and then it's like, well, like let's do something that kind of puts a spin on that, right? Like it's like
Yep.
let's kind of poke fun at that, or like I'm aware of that, but like we're going beyond that. So like that's just kind of what this was. The reason I bring all that up is because there's two different actors, and so I'm thinking, if you're 70, ostensibly it's still like your same insides. Like you're not getting like Rock Hudson's like heart or whatever. You're just like you're just getting his face, and so it's still like 70-year-old organs, I think, and everything, just inside like a 40-year-old body. So like if you do this enough times, there's gonna be like a lot of 40-year-old people who are like dying of like essentially old age. And so
Yeah.
to answer your question in a roundabout way, I don't think that I would. Like what I would rather do is if I had enough money and like technology like this existed, I would rather get like have new organs or something put into my body that would like sustain my body longer
To
as
live
opposed to
longer.
just like looking younger but still being the same age. What about you?
I feel like our generation has lost the lust for youth, or we're just not old enough yet to maybe even encounter this. Maybe it's like something natural that we'll get to eventually. But I always like reference my parents and their aversion to wearing glasses, in the sense that my mom refused to wear glasses for a very long time because she was like, I don't need them. And I think, talking to other people, it's like, oh, well, that's a sign that you're old, right? Like if you have glasses, you're old. And our generation didn't really have these kind of like stigmas for old age. I like your idea that like if you're an old person's body, what does it really matter? I don't ever want to look younger. Like I'm fine with how I look. I don't mind aging. I have no problems with this. But on the other hand, if I was like 70 and rich, then you're kind of like beholden to like this age and age group. If I could do this and become 30 or 40 years younger, start a new life, be accepted as a 40-year-old, that's a very interesting perspective for me. And I might have to do that.
Well, it's like I've been listening to like I've been catching up on podcasts, and I was listening to the end, the most recent, which is again at the end of October now, but the end of like Brian's horror movies. Like he's doing like a lot of vampire things and talking about like because he's got the question on his podcast, right? Like, does anybody
Yeah.
look too old to be a high schooler? And he's talking
Yes.
specifically about like in the movies like The Lost Boys, which is about vampires. It's like well, like or the Twilight movies, right? It's like well, they're hundreds of years old, but they look like they're 20.
Yep.
It's like does age so it's that kind of thing where it's like you want to kind of be immortalized or like fossilized in amber at a point where like you're happy with the way you look, but also like the shit inside's working fine, right? Like
Yep.
you don't want to be like you don't want to become immortal when like you have like bad knees. It's like well
That's
fuck,
yep.
like
Sore back and stuff.
yeah.
I agree. And like you're saying, like Twilight, like Edward Cullen could get away with a lot being 20 and like young and spry that you can't get away with if you're 70. And just by looks, like even if he did have bad knees or a sore back, like you would just be like, "Oh, you're young and handsome."
I
So
mean, think about The Irishman, right? Where we have like the young age makeup and De Niro, 70 years old, playing a 40-year-old, but like seeing him like kick that guy on the curb, it's like, no, that's a 70-year-old man
yes,
kicking a
yes,
guy on the curb. But like he like looks like young De Niro, but like he's moving like old De Niro.
yes, that's what I'm saying. But like, you could kind of hide that, I think, a little bit. Like if you looked 40. Not because of me wanting to be younger, but for the fact that you could do younger people things and hang out with younger people without the stigma of being an old person with younger people.
And like I guess that's what this movie becomes. It's that, we're gonna take care of you, we're gonna give you a new life, but we're just gonna put you in a community that's filled with people like you. It's like, well, what's the point? Like the whole point of like being young and
Yes.
like getting
Yeah.
a fresh start is like I get to be who I want to be. But if the company is being like, oh, who you're gonna be is like essentially you, but no, but like but in like an eyes wide shut party where you're wearing a mask and like people don't really know who you are, but eventually they're all gonna know that like, no, this is not your original body. It's like, well, what's the point? Like then it's just it's even sadder if you think about it like
Yeah,
that.
that's what I'm saying. In that like from that way, once you realize that everybody else that come to the party at his house are all seconds, like you guys are all just acting. Like everybody's in on the gag. Like
Yeah.
it's like this is, and that's not what you would want. Like you're like, oh no, like I'm an interesting, fascinating person. I made up my whole backstory, but like everybody else is as much as they can be their true selves, right? So you're like, well, this is just lame if we all know. Why are we doing this? Like, we should just got facelifts and called it a day.
So I was wondering as I watched this and trying to figure out because this is not really about memory loss because like at the end like the final shot is kind of haunting in that like he's getting drilled into and he has these memories of like a family on a beach, probably him and his actual wife, not this like plant of a girlfriend,
Yeah,
but remembering this like good memory he once had that becomes blurry as he gets killed, right?
yeah.
Okay, so this isn't really about memory loss. It's not really at all Fast and Furious because again, it's black and white. It's old timey. There's a lot of
Wait,
dialogue. There's not a lot of action. There's not a lot of cuts. Once again, nominated for an Oscar for best black and white cinematography. So that's the second movie in a row. But
okay.
I'm like, okay, so thinking about it, like,
Go
what
ahead.
if Han is
Yep,
a second?
100% is exactly where I wound up with this. 100%. Why not, right?
But I'm trying to think, like, if he's a second, who's the actual person in his body?
I don't think that this is far of a stretch from everything that we've seen so far, including Brixton and Hobbs and Shaw. Like the difference between your body like having a different face and your brain being in an animatronic body are not very removed from my thinking.
Yeah,
You get what I'm saying?
it's like
Because
it's more mental than physical, but also
your
physical.
consciousness stays the
Yep.
same depending on what your physicality is. So for me, I saw this as like another piece of the same thing, and just because of when this came out, it's just technology, right? Like they weren't into like biometric, enhancements at the time. So you're like, okay, cool. So they changed faces as opposed to like I'm a robot inside.
Okay, so if we take this one step back or further, I don't know which direction, but like they have Han because like Han is a welcome face. They're like, oh, he's family, he's part of the inside. But if we think about it more sinister, who is in him? Like, who would want access? Like, Deckard already is in, so it can't be Deckard. Charlize, like, Cypher is still alive, so it
She's
can't really be
exist, and we
her.
see her in the trailer too. So like we know she's separate.
The villain in six is Owen Shaw, right? Which he's family adjacent enough. Like, I don't think he would need to like do some kind of crazy thing at the end. Like, Dex could just vouch for him, right? Because he
And he,
also
and he helped
helped.
save the baby,
Yeah.
and so he's good now
And
essentially.
then you go earlier, like Reyes doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Braga is just like a
No,
pawn, essentially. He doesn't matter. DK is still alive, but also DK has no like DK doesn't know Han. Or I mean DK doesn't know Dom, right? Like DK doesn't have any like he's far removed. Like Carter
yeah,
Verone doesn't know Dom. And then you go all the way back to one, it's like Johnny Tran, but like Johnny Tran doesn't need to like that's unless he's like the grand master of everything, like he gets left for dead and like swears vengeance, which is not out of the realm of possibility that he spent the last 20 years like recovering and becoming like, I'm going to get vengeance on this family for leaving me to die. But that would be such like a weird like if each movie has to tell a story that new members can understand, like throwing it all the way back to Johnny Tran, but like he's kind of the
yes.
only villain that makes sense.
This could be a way to introduce a new big bad, that Han is the ultimate big bad in Han's body because of something like this. And I think that it will be very interesting to get like a total recall moment, and it's like Keanu behind Han.
Hmm.
Like if we're going along the path of like, new face, same guy, voice changing.
New
This
phone, who
movie,
dis?
yeah, yeah, yeah. New body, who dis? Exactly. But that's a cool play, and we haven't thought of that yet.
If it's someone new, then like but Keanu's body has to also be in it too, right? Because like otherwise you don't have to like you're like, oh, that's Keanu Reeves. But it's like no, that's just.
Han and Keanu are similar builds.
But I mean, like you would need like you don't cast Keanu if all you're seeing is Sung Kang, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly where my mind went. I'm like, oh, like if this is not because we're talking about, is Han mind controlled? Is Han from
Yes.
Etion? Like, is there more here? But this is like a different of a kind, but a different angle that we have not really discussed because we didn't really know this technology existed in a movie.
Somebody else's consciousness is in Han's body, and that person was evil or is evil and is using it to infiltrate the family. That's a fucking genius play. That's something that I think would be very interesting to play out in the movies.
In terms of what we're looking for, and in terms of having someone like a Keanu or like a Hobbs dad or someone, like it feels like mind control would be cleaner. But I also like the dedication that it takes, like the face-off technology of it all, to bring them actually literally in, so that it looks like a friendly face, but is actually someone evil and manipulative. Then like they get face off back into whoever they were or something. I don't know.
Yeah, because Deckard was there, and like we don't see what happens to Han's body, so that's the switch would be like an easy thing. And if Han shows back up to the family, they're not gonna be like, "Is this the real Han?" Right? Like they're gonna pretty much accept him from the jump.
Right.
So if it's somebody that was there, that was like, if we have like another somebody that was behind the scenes, kind of spying on what was going on, you
Oof.
know, then yeah,
The cost to do this procedure in 1966 was $30,000, which, if you do a conversion, is like about $250,000 today, which is not, I guess, a
much.
lot of money, but like considering in theory it's a brand new life, not that much.
But he also signs over like all of his assets, so we don't know if that's like the cost. I had a strong suspicion that the company was running a fucking scam racket in the back too.
Well, like when he visits his wife, which is devastating, but like she seems to be doing okay, right? Like, so it's not like they took her house away.
Yeah, that's true, but at the same time it's like his life insurance, his money that he had saved, like they have control of everything. It's like in some trust now. So like maybe they're not kicking the wife out of the house, but like they could have skimmed off the top a lot more than 30 grand is all I'm thinking.
The behind the scenes mechanics of the company, which is fascinating to me. Like when the guy is explaining to him, he's like, "Oh, here's like," it's essentially because they're like, "Oh, if you show up here, like you're just in it. Like we're not going to let you leave. Like you can either like do the thing or we'll just kill you." Like is what you're. There's two
Well, they
exits. Like neither
blackmail
go.
him.
Yeah, neither go back to your real life. It's like, do you want to live or do you want to not want to live? Like they don't spell it out like that, but they're like, hey, like you're here, like this is what's happening now. Like you showed up, like we're
Yeah.
doing it. But the guy is explaining kind of what it is, and then they serve him dinner. And I guess in movies like this, you're always kind of wary, like, oh, they probably drugged the food or whatever. Which no, he gets drugged later.
Or was drugged already. Yeah.
Yeah, like, do you mind if I and like he just eats the dinner and like it's just so casual and so nonchalant. Like as he's like, oh, this chicken is so good. Like it's just delicious. But he's like explaining like how they murder people or then they like fake deaths of other people and they
Yeah.
move bodies. But like it's all just over like this guy eating fried chicken or whatever. It's like this. It's so weird and just like casual. I just loved it.
Yeah, the chicken scene was definitely one of my favorites too. Because he's committed to eating this chicken. There's a lot of movies, even fucking cooking shows. Like we see like Giada take like one bite of something. This man is facing a chicken in the middle of this conversation, like food in mouth, chewing, talking with food in his mouth. Like he's fully eating. Very interesting choice. I thought it was very comedic to me, just because it was just like so weird.
It feels like other movies we have like kind of Dark City-ish, and that like they just have like or not Dark City is like a movie we've not covered that would sort of again be hovering around the ballpark, but like Terry Gilliam's Brazil, where it's like
Yes.
just the CPS, the Cadaver Procurement Services. It's like that just feels like, oh,
Yep.
this just thing like, oh, that's our CPS division. Like people just work there. It's like whatever. It's like, well, no, like you're just finding bodies. Like that's a job that should not exist. Like that's crazy. Like the fact you're like, oh,
And
it's
are
just
they
the CPS.
alive when you find them? Or are they just dead? Like we don't know what that part. He's like, oh yeah, like the Cadaver Procurement Service. Like that's, and you're like, I don't know about this either. Yeah.
We get another dream sequence, what we think is a dream sequence, but we later find out is not a dream sequence, was actually real, which is horrifying. But like it looked Dali-esque, and maybe it's just because it's in my brain because we just watched
Mm-hmm.
Spellbound, but like
Mm-hmm.
with the weird perspective and like things kind of melting and shaping and twisting and like just weird that these two movies separated by 20 years that are not even thematically related. Like they're not about memory loss, right? They're not about like,
No.
but like similar enough that we both they're both in this lap, but both nominated for black and white cinematography and both with like literal Dali-esque in one and like referential to the other. Like it was so weird to me that like I feel now it's like, oh, there's like a pink elephant, like this isn't real or whatever. But like
Yes,
to
yes,
have the
yes.
same kind of melty perspective warping thing, it's like, oh, like that's very clearly, I think, a reference to not to Spellbound, but to Dali in general.
Yeah, and also I think it's just of the times that, now we can CGI them up enough to make them feel very unrealistic. And at the time, you're working with stuff that you have to deal in realism just because of the technology, right? So all the dreams feel very strange because they have to shoot them using real people, real actors, real props. So it's like, what is this? And like our brains aren't programmed to be like, oh, that's something weird and different. It doesn't fit in the movie. This is probably like a dream sequence. It still feels like what is going on here? This seems too real.
Yep. What seems like the slap in the face in this movie is when he's on a plane to Malibu, like he's going to Southern California, which,
Yeah.
right in our backyard, in the Fast and Furious backyard, going to the PCH, stopping at Neptune's Net before he goes to Malibu, I guess. I would hope.
Is he buying his own shrimp?
I hope so. I mean, maybe he can't afford to anymore now that the company controls all his assets. But I thought at first it was just the fact that like he went from being this old man who is probably never seen in public without his wife and just always like oh yeah, ho hum, like things are fine, to suddenly looking like Rock Hudson, and this attractive stewardess or air flight attendant is just like, oh, like excuse me, like Mr. Wilson, like, can I, and like she's like kind of flirting with him. I'm like, oh, like he like freaks out and he runs to the bathroom, right? I'm like, oh, I think he's just not used to young women flirting with him because it's like he
He
didn't
isn't.
look like
Yeah.
Rock Hudson, right? But I think it's more like he's realizing that he's now going to be referred to by this other name. Like he is a different person now. Not only just the fact that like this hot young woman is like, hey, like can I get you any more or whatever, but it's like also Mr. Wilson, not Mr. whatever his name was before.
It's definitely a bit of both. Like is this his first like excursion out where he's not dealing with people that know that he's both, that it's somebody else inside his body. So that would be kind of hard to grip. I've done enough disassociatives to be like that's a weird headspace to be in. It would be strange. But yes, I think that the young woman flirting with him triggered him to start to realize like, oh, yes, it's not me. And then once he has that, he has the existential problem of like, I'm not me on the outside anymore.
So there's a real life, surreal, sad development from this. So Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys, like the guy who created Pet Sounds and like is
Yeah.
actually, one of the most brilliant minds in music, then obviously would go on to have like all sorts of, he had mental breakdowns, was on like very rough life for Brian Wilson. But he went to see this movie in theaters and he showed up late. And as he walks into the movie, he gets like the first line he hears is "Come in, Mr. Wilson." And so he
Oh,
starts freaking out. He's like,
fuck.
they're talking to me. And so Phil Spector, who is a producer who didn't produce the Beach Boys, but like a rival producer, apparently helped back or financially back or support or bankroll this movie in some way. And so he was convinced that Phil Spector was taunting him through the movie, and then it was
What?
written about his recent traumatic experiences and intellectual pursuits, going so far as to note that, quote, even the beach was in it. There's a whole thing about the beach. And so he was so freaked out about this by this experience and just, this didn't feel like it was all but probably the straw that broke the camel's back. But he would then go on to cancel the Beach Boys' upcoming album Smile, and he wouldn't see another movie in theaters for 16 years until he saw E.T. in 1982. But like
Jesus.
this movie so
Broke
thoroughly
him.
broke his brain or helped contribute to breaking his brain that he's like, I can't do this anymore.
That's a very sad story. And he has lots of a roundabout evidence, right? Like auxiliary kind of evidence, but also it'd be kind of weird to think that there was like 50 people that made this film just to fuck with you.
I mean, that's mental illness, man.
Yeah, it's paranoia. It
Yeah.
plays into the paranoia theme for sure. Yeah.
I didn't take a ton of notes because I was like, this movie is a movie that it's a kind of movie that almost have to watch a second time because like it's so
Yes, I agree.
weird and in your face that like I knew that I was not going to be able to speak about it as well as I would like after having just seen it once. But like by the end, when he's like, I want to do this again, like I want another fresh start, like this isn't working, but I know that the second time is going to be better. It's like at what point do you realize that's never going to be the case? Like, it's never going to be better.
It has like a very on the nose moral of like grass is always greener, right? Like that's the whole point of the movie. It's like you think that this is going to be such a great thing, but like, and the doctor at the end he says it. He's like, we thought we would be helping people, but it turns out that like a lot of people don't fucking like this because you're still the same person. You didn't really fix what was wrong. And it plays well with Spellbound in that sense too. In Spellbound, they're always talking about like once you discover what caused the trauma, like you'll be fixed. And it's like, no, you won't. Like you're still gonna be something. Like you still have to deal with the shit that's in you.
Do you think, and I don't have an answer for this, do you think that the people in the company, the ones like the doctors and the executives and whatever, do you think that they're all seconds too? Or do you think that they just had this idea, this cabal of rich old white men were like, hey, let's get richer and wealthier and whatever, and just, prey on the people who are, there's a parallel to be drawn to people like who want to donate to a thing to like prove election fraud because like they think it's their last glimpse. Like it's like, easy marks, right? Like, do you
Yeah.
think that these people in this company who are just becoming wealthier by preying off people who are desperate, like, do you think that they're all seconds too, or do you think they're just like, hey, this seems like a fun venture to do for a while?
This is a meta take on it, to look at it and be like, is everyone in on this? Because of the practicality of that they need to be plastic surgeons, right? They're doing a physical act that is a skill. I don't think that all of them are seconds. I think that maybe like the salesman guy at the beginning, he could possibly be a second because there's like a board and like a business part of this. And because of the answer the doctor gives him near the end, where he was like, I really started doing this because I wanted to help people. There might be a division of them that, like, the financial peoples are possibly seconds, also just looking for easy marks. But the doctor portion of it was led to believe that they actually could help people change their lives and make them better.
Do you think that they genuinely believe that, or do they just haven't become disillusioned yet? Either you buy in, like you drink the Kool-Aid and you're like, this is
Yeah.
the greatest thing that's ever happened, or like there's something that goes, like there's one time where you're like, oh shit, like this guy's life isn't better. Like maybe the way that I've been viewing this has been wrong. Like, do you think the people who are like on board are firm? I mean, again, it's just all just guesswork because there's no right or wrong answer. But like, are they firmly on board in that they're like, yeah, we're doing the Lord's work, or they're just like, yeah, this might not be okay.
From what I know from dealing with a lot of doctors all the time, that I think the ultimate goal of a doctor is to make someone's life better.
Hmm.
So I think that at the core, they believe that. I think that there'll be a time when they do become disillusioned with it. And like, there's a point where you have to stop, look back and be like, oh, maybe I wasn't doing the thing that was best for them, although that's what they wanted. And if you have a successful case, right? Like maybe you have a case where somebody's like, this is totally fine. And I really love this because you have all the seconds that are out in Malibu that are like partying together and
Yep.
they seem to be like adjusted and fine. He seems to be more of an extreme, but the tone that the doctor gives him at the end seems that he's starting to question if it's ultimately good or bad all the time.
Yeah.
Do we judge people for getting plastic surgery? It's do whatever makes you feel the best.
Right.
And sometimes that can go wrong or not be what they wanted later. And it's like, well, I'm sorry, but like we had to let you do the thing that made you happiest in the moment, right? So we can't like stop everybody from getting plastic surgery because one person regrets it, right?
Yeah. I have some other cool trivia about this, but I don't have a lot of more notes about the movie. Was any other topics, any other plot points, any other whatever?
We were talking about Spellbound, and what did I say to you last time? They go to Grand Central. Did you notice this?
Oh, I have great trivia about this, but I know that they're in Grand Central, but but go ahead.
And I'm like, oh, this looks like Grand Central again. And it's like, oh, yeah, it is. Okay, there's no buy war bonds sign. They walk in this time between track 23 and 24, and on track 24 is a train that says New Haven.
Oof.
And didn't I say last time, like, I was like, oh, he went to like 22, but like, I think I'm usually 24. So apparently for about 100 years, they've been using the same fucking track to get to New Haven. And like, that's just like the switch at the end there. So crazy to me.
Super weird.
Super
So
weird.
there is trivia about Grand Central. So to be able to film at Grand Central without really attracting attention, because you can't just shut down
No.
Grand Central.
No.
So what John Frankenheimer did, which this might be one of my favorite trivia bits of any movie that we've ever done, he hired a male model and a Playboy bunny to make out, and he hired a duplicate film crew to film them, so that people thought, there's this other thing going on. So like, oh, they're shooting a movie at Grand Central today, and then like, oh, look at these two beautiful people making out with a film crew. Like that's a
And
thing.
they're
Like,
all
let's go gawk at
gawking.
them. and then you got, what's his name, John Donovan or whatever, John Randolph, like
Yes.
just doing this thing because they're not in Grand Central for that much time, but it's like, oh shit, like that's so funny that like hire beautiful people, put a camera in front of them, people are like, oh my god, that must be the movie. Like, let me go watch that.
This is the Justin Lin Tokyo Drift thing where he had a fake director, right? Like that we've been using this since the '60s, bud. We did the same thing here.
But I think that this wasn't like to skirt the law. This was
Yes,
just to like,
exactly. What is it? Kansas City Shuffle. Like you got, everybody's looking at one thing and you're really doing it over here. Okay, we just watched Spellbound and there was like lots of like it was like a very proper movie. I'm so used to watching movies of now. And we talked about this before. I don't think of ratings. I don't think of fucking anything in these movies. If I watch a movie and it swears or has nudity or whatever, it never surprises me. But because we watched Spellbound and it was like very quaint, they had like the literal quadruple dooring. In this movie, I'm like, okay, this is 60s. It's not that much different. Like stuff was still, kind of proper. We get that dream sequence and he kind of like falls on the woman and I was like, oh, that's a little risque, right? Like
yep.
that's a little closer than I expected for this movie. I'm like, okay, cool. Like even to the point where in my notes, I'm like, was that a sex scene? Like, did we just like see like way further than we've gotten before? Then we get to the point where he has gone to Malibu. He meets the girl on the beach. He takes a walk with her and she's like, I'm going to San Bernardino tomorrow for a wild party. And he's like, oh, I like wild parties. And I'm like, oh, what is this going to be? Like wild party. And so like, they're like traipsing through the woods with some grapes. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like they're going to go have like a wine party. That's cool. And then they start throwing the grapes in the thing and they're like, stomp the grapes. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. This is like a little raucous, right? This is this is a hip party. This sounds fun. And then the girls just fucking strip.
Yeah.
All of them for like 15 minutes. They're just like nude dancing in this fucking wine press, stomping the grapes. And I was like, I was not expecting that. Like, did you see this coming?
No, but I mean, I'm also not surprised by not like indie filmmaking, but kind of
Artsy filmmaking.
artsy filmmaking of the 60s in black and white to be like, oh yeah, there's just a bunch of naked, like there's a lot of boobs. Like, I don't think you see any dick, but like you see like some full frontal from like women briefly, but it's a lot of just like naked women like having an orgy essentially. But like not sexual. It's just like they're all just getting drunk and like stomping on grapes together. And like
Naked.
I
Yeah.
imagine like if we stayed on that scene for 10 more minutes, like everyone would be fucking. But like
Yes, exactly.
they cut in a tasteful juncture. But yeah, it reminded me of, in a way, like Midsummer with a Midsummer Dance, and they're all dancing around the maypole, and like, she's trying to be the last one standing so she can become the May Queen or whatever. And it starts with just one person. Like, it's kind of in reverse, where it starts with one person, then like, oh, I'm gonna get in there too. And then like they forced Rock Hudson in there too. It's just like, I'm not comfortable with this. Everyone else is having a good time. And like, it's this equal parts. And like, I was reading a lot of Letterboxd reviews just to see what other people were saying about this, and like friends who had written about it. And like, it seems like the two most common themes are just the cinematography overall, like how the movie looks, but
It's
also
perfect,
that
yeah.
scene in particular, because it's like, this is all the emotions. Like, it's just like, it's fun, but it's terrifying and it's scary and it's
Yeah.
like exhausting and exhilarating. And it's just women stomping, and then eventually men too, stomping on grapes to make wine, but it just feels chaotic.
It does. It conveys the feeling of chaos through film very, very well. And I was just like shocked by that. Yeah, it's definitely like a scene and a thing that will stick with me for a while. Like I can't imagine that leaving my brain because I was not prepared for it. It's not like they hit it or it just was like it just popped up out of nowhere. Like they're leading you to it. And I still was like, they're not gonna do it. They're not gonna do it. And then they did it. And I was like, okay, cool. Okay, so then I was like, okay, this movie's a little bit more risque than I thought. And there's a scene where they're at the party later where he drinks and he's drinking too much and eventually like, starts to get gabby about that he's a second. And he runs into this old lady and she's like, we changed sex.
Yeah.
And he's like, what?
Very funny.
And it's very funny, but I was like, damn, dude, this joke would still play today. She's talking about religious sects not changing of the sex, and I was like, this is so weird that like again, but I was at least prepared for that one. But I was like, wow, good play. Like this pun is incredible.
Yeah.
And holy shit, it works, and it wasn't like weird or like distasteful or anything. Like it's just like, oh, I misheard you. It's a pun. Ha ha ha. We laugh about it. It's okay. Move along. Like no comments on it. They just like, what? Okay, cool, and just keep going.
Yeah.
Some fast connections I saw though were one, obviously we get a walk on the beach, which felt very Letty and Dom on the beach. to
Sure.
me. And there's a scene when he has just gotten his face off, all of his plastic surgery, and they're like, "We need to rehab you for some months so that you'll be physically ready for when it's time to, release you into the wild." They have like a full like 3-minute workout montage scene. For some reason, this feels very Fast and the Furious.
So I was thinking the movie was like The Matrix in like being reborn and everything. And
Yeah.
there's
Oh
that
yeah.
one scene in The Matrix where Keanu says, "Why do my eyes hurt?" And Morpheus just says, "Because you've never used them before." And like they cut. It's like, okay, cool, we get it. Like we don't need to see the actual rehab. It's like this is like the kind of thing where it's like, yeah, okay, like it's kind of Rocky, it's kind of Fast and Furious. It's like, but we don't need to see him actually building them. Like we would
No.
get it. Like we would know, right? Like there's
Yeah.
more straightforward, but also like it's I didn't hate it, but just like, oh, this isn't needed.
Yeah, but it was just like the physical act of him doing like sit-ups and like, benching weights and stuff. I was like, do we ever see Dom like benching in Fast and the Furious? 'Cause I don't think we ever see him actually working out.
That's a very good question. I don't know that we see anybody ever working out.
Like, I don't even think we see like The Rock. Maybe at the beginning of Hobbs and Shaw, like when he's
Oh
doing
well, yeah.
his,
So he
like,
works at the Hobbs and Shaw, and then he also when he's in Fate in the cell, he's like lifting the sink. He's doing curls like
yeah,
that, but that's the Rock's persona. Like we never see Vin in real life working out or Dom in the movie working out. I think he's just like, it's almost like he wants people to think like that's just what he naturally, like that's his body type. It's like, well, that seems crazy, but maybe.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. And I was like, yeah, like we never get like a Jersey Shore GTL session, like Vince being like, "Me, I'll be at the gym," or Dom being like that, and then Vince being like, "I gotta go tell Dom something," and he's like at the gym too. You think that like both of them would be like spending time at the gym, but instead, no, they just like lift engines or something. I was like, wait, have we never seen anybody working out in Fast and the Furious? Like, we really haven't, have we?
I guess not. I mean, you would think that we would because it'd be, clanging and banging, right? But no.
Yeah, light work. Exactly.
Let's see here. What other trivia do we have? So this movie was not well received at all.
Ugh.
This did not have an audience. It's become a cult classic. People love it now, but in the time it flopped hard. I talked before, like it's subversive casting and acting for Rock Hudson because he's going against his type. Like, instead of being this like handsome, confident, he's like this kind of sweaty, frenetic mess, right?
Yeah.
But if like a Zac Efron movie like this came, like it's not a Zac Efron movie because like people aren't like, oh, let me go see him shirtless. Like if he's like, I can't, like I being hot, like doesn't, it's like this like weird thing where it's like this doesn't make sense.
Against
So like
character type, yeah.
Rock Hudson fans couldn't see this movie because it's not the kind of movie he's normally in. The studio didn't know how to market it, and I haven't watched the trailer yet. But like, I saw the first 3 seconds of the trailer. It was just like, who are or what are seconds? It's like, well, like it's asking a mystery that's going to take a lot of time to buy in. But anyway, it's gone on to become like critically acclaimed and people love it. And like, Frankenheimer wasn't on board with Rock Hudson as the cast because he wanted other people like Laurence Olivier or I think Kirk Douglas, like these like heavier, like more serious, more established actors. But like actually, in retrospect, the guy killed it. Like he did a great job.
Yeah.
When it came out, people were so upset and they screened it at Cannes, and film critics were so angry about this movie for whatever reason. John Frankenheimer was nearby in Monte Carlo filming a new movie, refused to go to Cannes because he's like, I don't want to, like, I don't want to get yelled at. Like, essentially, I'm not going to, like, it's shitty or whatever. So they sent Rock Hudson instead. And so like Rock Hudson couldn't answer any of their questions and just like had to get like, just bore the brunt of it all, which is like so shitty. Like that, the director, like instead of being like, let me try to explain my work, just like, fuck these guys, let Rock do it. It's like, that's bad.
Yeah, just feed them to the wolves out here. Jesus.
Awful. When Rock Hudson is drunk at the party, he got drunk in real life. So I guess that was, if he thought it was convincing acting, he was not acting as much as just like actually being drunk.
Those scenes make me uncomfortable because I'm always like, am I that kind of drunk? Like, do I get that drunk? And am I that annoying? And I'm like, hopefully not. And most of the time I'm just drunk with Rachel and she knows that I'm annoying anyways, so.
Well, the good thing is that when you guys get drunk, you're just annoying together.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, we're never like annoying in a crowd where we're like, ruining a whole party and like being assholes and spilling drinks on everyone. We're just annoying to each other. In which case we're both drunk, and so it doesn't matter.
Rock Hudson's 5 inches taller than John Randolph, who's the guy who plays the old version of himself, and so they did like a lot of camera work and whatever to make it seem like they were the same person. But what was the weirder part is that Rock Hudson was lefty, and so John Randolph had to like figure out how to do, like, he at one point, he, like, I noticed this after I read this, but like the contract he signed, so like allow them to do this. Like he signs lefty, but you have to learn how to do a lot of things lefty. But it's a weird split because like the first 40 minutes are John Randolph, and like the last hour is Rock Hudson. So it's like almost 50-50. But I guess like Rock Hudson's the star, he's the name, he's the face, he's whatever. So he's going to be the like normal or like the groundwork, right? So like
Yeah.
the other guy's going to have to like adapt to him, but it's just weird to like, oh, I got to learn how to do shit lefty because like this other guy's lefty. So like him signing his name or whatever, just a weird thing about acting, man.
And it really it really distinguishes the pecking order in the film too, right? You're
Yep.
like, okay, well, like I'm clearly the second fiddle in this, no matter what they try to tell me, because I'm doing all the shit like him, not him doing it like me. So
And I think, oh, and they also hung out together so that Rock Hudson could learn John Randolph's mannerisms. Because, like, even though, so the actor is doing things lefty to, like, line up with his later actor, but, like, Rock Hudson is learning how to act like, it's like,
an old man, yeah,
it's such a weird thing because, like, he's essentially being the old man, but the old man is, like, setting up the young man. So, like, they both have to, like, learn from one another. So it's this
yeah.
weird cross cutting, whatever.
You have to be in tune.
And the only other thing, do you know the filmmaker Gaspar Noé or Gaspar Noé, Gasparnoe?
No,
He did Enter the Void, he did Climax, he did Irreversible. He's like this very progressive, I think he did the movie Love, like very just in your face graphic,
no.
pushing the boundaries, pushing the envelope. French filmmaker. Like Irreversible is this one that's known because, or like what people know about it. And apparently, it's not what the movie's entirely about. But like Monica Bellucci gets like there's like a 10-minute sequence where she gets raped in a hallway, and like
Ugh.
you watch it for the entire like it's awful. But then
Yeah.
there's like Love, which is like a lot of actors having actual sex on screen. Enter the Void is like this very trippy drug movie that takes place in I think in Japan. Climax, which is like a literal nightmare of a movie that's like unlike anything. So like he's one of the
Very progressive.
best, like aggressive and very French and just wonderful. This movie Seconds is part of the Criterion Collection. Again, Spellbound was, this one is. Criterion Collection often bring people into their thing to like, you know, when they have a new movie that's on the Criterion Collection or whatever, they just want to like put out content, they like bring them into their quote unquote library, which is like all the DVDs on the shelves. They're like, hey, just pick out whatever movies you want to talk about or you want to have or whatever. And the first movie that Gaspar Noé picked out was Seconds, and he said that one day he will remake this movie. If you think that the Bacchanalia, the Stomp the Grape scene is nightmarish already, like let Gaspar Noé get his hands on it because like holy shit, man, like that would be next level like paranoia and just insane. So
Yeah.
that's all I got. Do you want to watch the trailer?
Yeah, I have one more thought
Go for
though. At the end of this movie, does it seem like that the recruiting process is just a pyramid scheme, and it kind of lends yourself to your thought that they're just like looking for marks? Because like they're like, okay, like we won't let you out until you find somebody else that'll do this. And it's like, oh god, that's terrifying, right?
Pay it forward, baby.
I think that it's more moral that he's like, I don't know anybody to do this because he doesn't want anybody else to go through this. But
You know, Charlie recruits him, and so by doing that, they're like allowing him to kind of continue on, right? Because they have another body in the system.
yes,
But then, like, because he won't pay it forward, they're like, okay, cool. Like, we need another body at some point anyway. So, like, we need two parts of this, right? Like, we need a new
Yep.
recruit and we need a body. And so, like, if you can't give us the one, we'll make you do the other.
exactly, yeah.
The trailer, posted by KRH Vids Seller, Rock Hudson Seconds trailer, 1966.
I'm ready whenever you are. Give me a.
All right, 3, 2, 1, play. Yeah, just who are seconds, right? It's like this kind of like, again, I don't know what trailers were like
Where
back
are
then,
Seconds?
but
Seconds might be all around you. Oh,
it's
no.
creepy.
It is creepy. Even now.
Nice organs playing, and then the opening sequence with the eyes and the warping reality, warping
Bizarre.
perception.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
Terrifying.
Rock Hudson, in an astonishing change of pace, stars in
You see, like the astonishing change of pace. Like this is not what he's mostly known for. Like it's
Yeah.
kind of like McConaughey, right? Where he's like the McConaissance was like him being like, I'm not going to do failure to launch anymore. Like I'm a serious actor.
now ready to taste new.
Oh shit, they show you that they're taking their clothes off. Okay. Okay. Wow. Got a lot of this wine party in here.
Again, I don't have the context for what life was like in the 60s, but it feels like this probably also might not have been the kind of movie that you saw at like mainstream movie theaters.
I think that's exactly what we're getting at. That this was like an art house film.
You to know that.
The dialogue between those two in this scene is so weird too.
as a man who lives the nightmare of being a second.
Why are you all staring at me like that?
Uh-oh.
Hey, John. Hey, John.
The first-person POV shots are just like also terrifying and unsettling, and
Oh
just like
yeah, very
where the
creepy.
camera almost shouldn't be.
Yep.
You know
Yep.
what?
They're like you,
They're like you.
reborn.
No. Oh yeah, this is fucking terrifying. The trailer makes it way scarier than the movie is, I think.
Yeah, the movie is kind of like a slow burn, like unsettling. This is like it's a straight up horror movie, like, which I think overall you could consider it, but it's not like
Yeah.
this makes it seem like the guy's running for his life, which kind of I guess he is, but also not literally. So
That was an interesting trailer. As much as it captures the tone of it, I think it's way darker than what the movie turns out to be.
like if you were looking for that movie and you saw this movie, would you be disappointed or would you be okay with it?
I would be okay with it. I would just be like, that's not what I thought that was going to be at all.
Sure. Okay. So let's play the Letterbox game. So for reference sake, Mad Max Fury Road, one of the most logged films on Letterbox, has been seen by 673,000 people. 673 seconds. From 1966, directed by John Frankenheimer, starring Rock Hudson, Salome Jens, or Jens maybe, John Randolph, and Will Geer, has been seen by how many people?
Criterion Collection. It's now a cult classic, but I still don't think a ton of people have seen it. I'm going to go 17,000.
You're very close, but you got to go a little bit higher.
18,500.
19,396. 19,396. But out of those 19,000, average rating of 4.04, most common a 4, then a 4.5, then a 5, then a 3.5. So people love this movie.
Yeah.
How many people have this in their top 4?
6.
Way higher.
Really? 27.
Way higher.
52.
Way higher.
75, that's it.
146.
That's a ton, dude. I would never have guessed that many.
It's funny funny is the wrong word, but it's funny to me how good you are at getting the number of people who have seen the movie somehow. I still don't understand how that works. Like I hear what you say as you talk it out. It still doesn't translate to me, but you're still not at all like either you're like, oh, like 7, like, yeah, okay, it's 7, yeah, or it's like, oh, you're not even close, and like you figured out half this game very well and the other half seems to like be eluding you somewhat.
Well, because you have to think of like, okay, maybe a lot of people love this movie, but put that into context of like, it's not new. So I'm thinking like it has to be very low because like even if you're like a film snob, you're gonna have something else in there. This is kind of culty. It's a low number of scenes, even though it's loved. Like having it in your top 4 is like it, and it's not brand new. So like if it's a newer movie, I would have guessed like way higher, right? Because like okay, it just came out. Maybe somebody saw it like last year, 2 years ago, and they're like still amped on it. Cool. Never expected 140 people to have this in their top 4.
So the difficult thing about the next step of this, I went like 30 profiles last night. Like everybody who had written a review about this, I had clicked on their profile, and like a lot of them are just like 4 movies from the 40s and 50s and 60s, and like some of them I haven't heard of, and like very difficult. But I found 2 people. Theoretically, one is like a little easier, but has one that okay. So I'll let you pick. Either option A has 2 easy movies, and then one you will never ever guess. Or option B has 3 movies that are not as easy, but they're all probably possibly gettable.
I'll go A. I want the 2 home runs and one stumper.
So the other one, the one that we're not playing, has The Lighthouse, Seconds, Lost Highway, and First Reformed. So all fairly recent. I mean, Lost Highway was in the 90s, but, you know, a couple from the last couple of years. 4 movies that I really, really like. But we're going to go to Eric Dobson at Eric Dobson on Letterboxd. Review from February 2015. Holy shit. 5 stars. That's it.
Perfect.
Seconds is his number 3 favorite movie of all time. Number 1 is a Letterboxd top 4 all-star.
Pulp Fiction.
Yep.
Perfect.
Number 2 is a movie from the 90s.
Okay.
That is sort of a spiritual successor in ways, I would say, to Seconds. Like the sense of paranoia from Seconds would carry directly to this.
Memento.
No, that's 2000, earlier than that.
From the 90s paranoia.
But it's got another element that it's more known for that's more prevalent, but it's what that other element inspires that leads to the paranoia of the film.
It's not Fight Club? We were talking about Fight Club.
Nope.
90s paranoia. Give me something else. Keep talking.
British.
Okay. Okay.
A sequel came out way, way later.
British movie with paranoia. Brazil? No, that's
Nope.
earlier.
That's
Way earlier
80s.
than the 90s. Yeah.
It's like 85, I think.
British movie with paranoia.
It's one of those movies that people say, well, I'll never watch that movie again. But it's still loved. So it might not be like there's certain movies that are like, oh, that movie fucked me up. I'm never gonna see that movie again.
Is it like Apocalypse Now?
No, that's from the 70s.
Yeah. Okay.
British, Paranoia, Fuck People Up, sequel that came out in the last couple of years, actually.
The sequel came out.
Mhm.
And not like The Matrix, because people would watch that over and over again.
No.
Paranoia in the 90s, but English too. I don't know. The English thing is throwing me. I can't
The
think.
big giveaway I would say is drug fueled.
Fear and Loathing?
Nope.
Drug fueled paranoia.
That's also not British.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, what the fuck is the British ones? Oh, Train Spotting?
Yep.
Okay.
Trainspotting.
There we go.
And then his fourth movie is a movie called Dogtooth. Have you heard of Dogtooth?
No, definitely.
Dogtooth is made by Yorgos Lanthimos, who did like Killing of a Sacred Deer, and he did
Oh.
The Lobster, and he did.
A24 movies. Yeah.
But this was his first one. He's a Greek director. This is from like 09.
Cool.
Really fucked up. Yeah, he also did The Favorite, Alps. Yeah.
That's awesome, though. That's an interesting. He's a nice spread there.
Yeah, he goes from like
nice spread
heroin and
ones.
Pulp Fiction to heroin and paranoia in Trainspotting to just paranoia and weirdness in Seconds to just general weirdness in Dogtooth.
Yeah. I like the spread of time.
All right, next week we have two more. We are doing our final regular installment with Nico and Kevo, talking about the video game Fast and Furious Crossroads. So if you want to follow along at home, there's a 3 hour and 30 minutes. Like if you have not watched it, there's a 3 hour and 30 minute play along. There's a couple that are 4 hours. There's one that I think we're going to go off of 3 hours and 30 minutes. I don't know how I'm watching it yet because I feel like I remember this more than other things, but I'm
I
probably
think
going
I
to
remember a ton of it, and I have a ton of
scrub
notes, too.
through and just remind myself of things.
I'm gonna try to find like a just cutscenes version.
The other movie next week we were talking about is one that you've specifically have alluded to several times this lap. We are finally getting to Shutter Island, the Martin Scorsese, Leonardo DiCaprio, doctors on an island, right? Paranoia, memory loss thing.
Yeah, are you asking because you've only seen it once?
Yeah, I saw it like a decade ago, and I didn't love it.
Oh man, okay, cool. I like Shutter Island, and a lot of movies. It reminds me of a lot of movies because it's taken elements, I think, from a lot of these kind of movies. So
I think I'm going to like it more than I remember. There's a lot of movies that I'm like, oh, I didn't like that, and I watch it again later. I'm like, I don't know what I was thinking. But like this one, I just didn't love. But especially within the context of this lap, having a newfound respect for Leo since that came out, I think I
always
might like it
loved
more.
Leo.
But it's Scorsese and Leo. I can't. hate
Yeah.
It, right? So, any other thoughts about Seconds or anything else, or do you want to close up shop and come back next week?
No, Seconds was pleasantly surprising, and I'm kind of with you. I feel like I need to rewatch on this one to really fully grasp it. Other than the dialogue being kind of goofy, the movie was very interesting for me.
And if you want even more paranoia, the Paranoia trilogy of those two other movies that Frankenheimer made, Manchurian Candidate and Closed Tab, 6 Days in May or something like that, from 1964. But you can look up the Paranoia trilogy, not an official trilogy, but all sort of a kind.
Oh, also this movie looks beautiful because it was Criterion Collection. So like, if you can get a Criterion Collection copy of it, the film itself looks outstanding.
Yeah, and it's streaming in a couple different places, and I think that probably, and I don't think it's on the Criterion channel, but I think it's elsewhere, and they probably have that restored version, so.
Yeah, and it's great, so.
Beautiful looking. But for all things Too Fast, Too Forever, you go to cageclub.me, facebook.com/TooFastTooForever, or at TooFastTooForever on Twitter and Instagram. Email us, family@cageclub.me. Check out our Patreon page at TooFastTooForever.com, and come back next week for Nico and Kevo on Fast and Furious Crossroads, and then Shutter Island as we continue our memory loss lap. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
I'm Joe too.
And we'll tell you all about it
when we see you